Not too long ago, I made a video analyzing new Not Krai trailer. From the way I spoke, yes, that video was completely unscripted because I just have to get things out of my head since I can't really go to sleep at that time and I was really excited. Today, I want to analyze both the 5.7 livestream update along with the new Not Krai trailer again, this time in a more scripted manner, and analyze it from the past lore that we get as well. With that said, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. My name is Neko Gitsune and I make lore and commentary videos on this channel to keep you company. Let's start with analyzing the trailer first. I'll be using the Korean dubbing as my reference here because I am more familiar with their voices and only Korean and Chinese trailers credit their voice actors. The first person who spoke to us, just like in the Not Krai trailer, is none other than Nicole. In this video, I'll be using this bunny looking silly as her placeholder while we'll talk about her. But TLDR, she is commonly theorized as a silly or an angel. Now look, I'm not insinuating that this is Nicole, but for the sake of this video, we'll use this silly as a placeholder. Anyways, it seems that the Hexen Circle will be heavily involved as well, which is quite interesting because all this time, they work behind the scenes for us. But ever since patch 5.6, they were a lot more involved by giving us a trial to help Albedo, and this time, it seems they're helping us in our battle against the Abyss Order. Although I feel like there's a pattern here, it seems Nicole is directly involved in helping us guide the Traveler when the main problem is involving the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ahn. Now I don't really want to say much, but it seems that we might even see the true form of Nicole in this update as well. Well, I mean that's just me coping, but who knows. Speaking of that, the second person who spoke to us is Loom, who tells us that the Loom of Fate is finally finished. We'll talk about this in a bit, but the most interesting part of this is that the next Natlanese quest will take place in Natlan. Now this is quite exciting for me because Natlan is filled with abyssal monsters, having out of control monsters that caused the Flowerfeather clan to take the most damage during the war against the Abyss in 5.1 update. What's even more interesting is that Yan-san claims to have heard of the Abyss Order, but judging from the way she speaks in the trailer, it doesn't seem she knows full well about the said organization. Yan-san is one of the 6 heroes, and I can only imagine that not everyone in Natlan even knows about the Abyss Order, or even the 6 heroes even knows about the Abyss Order. It's possible because they can't really put their attention outside of the things that they have on their plate, that being the war against the dragons hundreds of years ago, and of course, the Abyss. This means that this is the second huge event that the Natlanese don't know about, the first being the Archon War because the Natlanese never attended one to begin with, and the second one being the Abyss Order. If I can give you my 2 cents, among the playable casts, at least only Mavuika, Yan-san, Kinich, Chaska, Shilonen knows about the Abyss Order, and it's possible that Sitlani knows the most about the Abyss Order. We'll talk about her in a bit. I find this quite interesting, and this might answer a theory that I always had. I don't know if I ever mentioned this in my channel, but I always thought that the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ahn have something to do with the Abyssal War in Natlan. Now of course, the war in Natlan has always been there from the very beginning, but it's quite interesting how in the Archon quest, Mavuika theorized that Natlan only has 500 years left before it's completely engulfed by the Abyss. The timeline is quite aligned with the time that the Abyss Order was formed, which was also presumably around 500 years ago. Now I'm not insinuating that Fedefalnir made the Fontaine Prophecy 2.0 because from the storytelling point, it's not possible. However, I think Mavuika is aware that the Abyss Order was plotting something, and the plan that they were doing heavily impacted Natlan. Of course, the most likely answer is that the Loom of Fate heavily impacted Natlan in some way, and we'll talk about it in a second. Now here's the thing, okay? This is quite a common mistake in the community, but while the Abyss Order is part of the Abyss is not always part of the Abyss Order. The obvious proof of this is the Krai Abyss Herald that we encountered during the Karabard questline, Jacob Ingold in the Narcissan Cruz questline, and the Electro Abyss Herald and the Pyro Abyss Mage that both Burkina fought along with his Saurian companion Kongamato. The reason the Abyss Order exists in the first place is because of Clothar Alberic, who was in awe of Fedefalnir's power. Since then, a lot of Khaenri'ahns joined the Abyss Order in order to rebel against the Heavenly Principles. While it's not confirmed, it's possible that all of the Abyss Order members are Khaenri'ahns who chose to aid in the rebellion, but it's good to remember that not all Khaenri'ahns are aligned with the Abyss Order, such as Tinsley for example. Kaya is also one of them, Piero of the Fatui is also one of them, and presumably this girl named Tiller, also not aligned with the Abyss Order. We'll talk about her in a second. Now this is a small detail that everyone forgot, but speaking of the Loom of Fate, Citlali knows about this particular phenomena because Paimon actually told her at the end of Act 3 of Natlan's Archon quest. It might be possible that since then, Citlali tries to conduct her own investigation about this because, for a refresher, the whole point of Act 3 and half of the Act 4 is to stop Capitano from using other alternatives that can stop the war against the Abyss, because any means necessary will heavily damage the Night Kingdom. It's interesting because both Citlali and Yahual the Chieftain know about the Loom of Fate from the Traveler. Since Capitano and Yahual the Chieftain are essentially in one body, it wouldn't be a surprise if she knows what this particular phenomena is, and Citlali, being the Granny Itzli of the Masters of the Nightwind, also know this as well. After all, the problem in Natlan is basically about their damaged ley lines anyway, so knowing about the Loom of Fate is definitely interesting for them to pick their interest on. Since we are on the topic of Loom of Fate, I want to mention something interesting. Prior to Khaenri'ahn questline, the term Loom of Fate was used to create a mechanical god. It seems that the way the Loom of Fate works is by creating a new god that can weave new ley lines. Now that the Night Kingdom of Natlan is healed, they are planning to use it there since Natlan's ley lines don't necessarily quote-unquote connect with the rest of Teyvat. Of course, it does connect in one way or another since Natlanese cannot traverse outside of Natlan, but that's not the point right now. The point is, since the Loom of Fate is now complete and Natlan's ley lines are healed, then it's possible their presence there is to use the Loom of Fate to its capacity. I already mentioned just now that the Abyss Order might have an influence with the initial war, and as for what it is, we'll have to wait and see how it goes later. Now let's move on. So this girl here is unique because, for one, of course, the unique NPC model. Wow, shocker, I know. We all thought that Genshin could never, but it seems that they could ever now. Good job, competitors, good job. Anyway, serious talk. The order of the casts is based on the respective order whoever talks first in the trailer. Since this girl talks before Alice talks, then we can safely assume that this girl's name is indeed Tiller. Now this is just assuming if the order is correct because it could be possible that her name is Hayden, but I did some research on the voice actor that is responsible for this character and I dubbed a guy is voicing a female character. That said, I am positive that this girl's name is indeed Tiller, so in this video we'll call her that, but take it with a grain of salt because it could definitely be someone else. So who is Tiller? What is she doing in Natlan and what is the purpose of her appearance? There are two theories I can come up with. First of all, I would like to propose that this girl is a manifestation of the first ruin grader called the Field Tiller. So back in Bedtime Story Archon Quest, the Abyss Order finally obtained the eye of the first Field Tiller after implanting false memories into Dainsleif. The eye of the first Field Tiller was meant to create a mechanical god, and it seems there came a time that the eye took shape and created this girl named Tiller. If you guys don't remember, the Field Tiller was the first ruin guard ever made by the Khaenri'ahns as a war machine and is said to be stronger than the normal ruin guards. At some point, it left Khaenri'ah and wandered around Mondstadt, but was soon damaged heavily by Boreas for mistaking it as a challenger. After the Field Tiller left, it became immobile but still active in the old Mondstadt ruins, or we now know them as the Storm Terror Slayer. Whenever it sends any presence, it will launch missiles to defend itself, but this machine was only active for a year before it completely shut down until the events of We Will Be Reunited in 1.4. Now with that context, it's possible that the Field Tiller has its own consciousness because it left Khaenri'ahn to Mondstadt for unknown reasons other than it left mindlessly. To be fair, there are a lot of ruin guards that left Khaenri'ahn and mindlessly roamed across Teyvat, but this one is special because it's possible that the Field Tiller left Khaenri'ahn before the Cataclysm happened. Many weird things happen in the Dainsleif questline, so it's not completely far-fetched either if Tiller is a human manifestation of the Field Tiller, and it's quite an interesting setting too given this happened in Natlan, and it's possible that the first place we'll encounter her is in Atokpan region, where there are a lot of dragon technologies scattered around the land, same like her, who is originally a tech. Another possibility, but also a bit unlikely, is that Tiller is the Teyvat version of the Abyss Twin. For a quick reminder, while the Traveler is a descender, their twin is not because their fate is now tied to Teyvat's ley lines, meaning they are part of Teyvat. It's possible that Tiller is the Teyvat version based on what the Irminsul record them as, but I tend to have doubts on this because if that's the case, then if you chose Lumin as your Traveler, then you will have a male equivalent of this particular NPC. Knowing MiHoYo, I find that to be very unlikely because not trying to diss them here, but They're very lazy to create unique NPCs like this. The most they did was Senora and Capitano, which even then, they probably do that because they know the players will be feral if they get lazy ass looking NPCs. But back to Tiller. If that's the case, then the Irminsul sees the Abyss Twin as Khaenri'ahn and possibly a half-blooded one because her star-shaped eyes look like Kaya's eye color. Of course, there's a possibility that's not the case, and she is a pure-blooded one. Khaenri'ahn eyes are not only star-shaped eyes, but there are cases like Arlecchino where she is also a Khaenri'ahn, just from a different dynasty where presumably Renova was worshipped as their god. Although to be fair, none of that matters because at the end of the day, the main issue is still the same. Tiller is a Khaenri'ahn, and if she is what the Irminsul sees the Abyss Twin as, then the Abyss Twin is classified as a Khaenri'ahn. The third possibility is her being, well, just a normal Khaenri'ahn citizen that somehow ended up on the surface. If that's the case, then Tiller is not a half-blooded one, but indeed a pure-blooded one because her body remains intact. If she is half-blooded, then she would have been cursed as a Hurlitrol. Unless she somehow found a way to undo the curse or her fate is similar to Kaya where he is not affected by the curse, the only way for her to be not affected by such is that she is somehow affected by the Loom of Fate. Also, because Khaenri'ahns are now accepted in the Night Kingdom, it could be a possibility that Tiller was affected by the Night Kingdom's influence as well. Overall, whatever Tiller is doing in Natlan is very unclear, but with that context, we can move on to the next topic. At the beginning of the trailer, Nicole described to us what the Khaenri'ahn Cataclysm feels like. She refers to them as doomsday, endless pain, terrible curse that can't be undone, and the birth of a savior. Now call me crazy, but it seems the birth of Savior happened in Khaenri'ahn, which again matches the notes in René's notes where he believed Crown Aria is the cycle of freedom from the gods. Again and again and again, this note haunts me back. Of course, let's all face it, the Traveler will emerge victorious against the Heavenly Principles no matter what. It's just that the when and how remains unclear. Anyways, it's possible that the birth of Savior here refers to the Traveler, or it's possible that the Abyss Twin was meant to be the Savior. This line definitely reminds me of the Battle Pass animation where the princess was meant to seek the Genesis Pearl from the Kingdom of Darkness, but the princess eventually became corrupted. People commonly believe that this story is an allegory of what happened to the Bliss siblings, and judging from the story of these weapons, it seems that's the likely case. Although if my theory is correct, there should be the third installment of the Gnostic Chorus in the future because so far, only 2 Gnostic Chorus weapon sets are officially released, and both sets share the same theme of each other that correspond to the story. The first set are a set of stories where the wielder of these weapons loses stray of their original goal, while the second set are stories that either lost in time or changed over the years. It's the same with the princess who lost her original goal and ended up becoming the princess of Kingdom of Darkness, therefore she forgot who she really was. If the third Gnostic Chorus exists, then it's possible that the third set is about the heroic deeds of the wielder of the next Gnostic Chorus weapon set. But back to the main topic here. The Genesis Pearl story could definitely be referring to the Traveler siblings where the twin was meant to be the savior. According to the Wings of Fate's course intertwined, the Abyss sibling was used by the Finster King, which is believed to be King Ermin, to absorb the unlimited abyssal power. Because of this, the twin became the key to the Cataclysm, where Nicole described it as Doomsday, while the Wing described it as Near-World Annihilation. The gender pronouns of the golden-haired heir depends on the choice of Traveler you chose at the beginning of the game, so it's definitely the Abyss sibling, and it's even more evident when the Wing also mentioned Dainsleif in the story. The trailer added more context to the story where it seems the Abyss Twin is reliving the events of the Cataclysm, where the Khaenri'ahns are screaming for help while one of them even refers to the sibling as outsiders. It's even more evident the moment we saw the cubes that is the same as the Unknown Gods cubes. Back then, we had no idea why the Khaenri'ahns were cursed to begin with, but little by little, the lore starts to unravel itself, and here's the most likely answer I can give you for now. This is heavy speculation theory by the way, so take it with a huge grain of salt. In the finale of the Deep Galleries, the Voyager, or so to say the youth that the Voyager cast her consciousness to, is described as someone with star-like pupils, so it's possible that either this youth or the Voyager is the first Khaenri'ahn. The records of Jueyun is basically the first time we heard of this particular story, and according to it, the Voyager and the First Angel had their memories completely wiped after their acts of rebellion against the Heavenly Principles. However, it's unclear whether the records of Jueyun is still reliable because we soon learned that the couple did not marry to each other, and the Moon Sister did not witness their marriage, but they witnessed their act of rebellion in secret. So there's a possibility that instead of the Voyager that the Heavenly Principles wipe their memories of, it's the youth's memory, or instead of a memory wipe, they were thrown somewhere else. During this time, celestial nails were casted, and it is said that all of them were casted simultaneously after the Heavenly Principles won the Battle of Vengeance against Nibelung. That said, it's possible that Nibelung's second appearance happened alongside the Voyager and the Angel's rebellion, and all the nails we saw, including the ones in Hyperborea, were casted at the same time. It's also implied that the Voyager is still alive and is wandering in Spiral Abyss, and considering that Skirk has a tight connection to this artifact's lore, we might learn more about this particular Voyager in her story quest. But to continue from that, if the Voyager or the youth survived that ordeal, it's possible that they went underground and created a new civilization from there. Khaenri'ahn is described as an underground nation close to the abyss, so it's possible that Khaenri'ahn was established after that punishment. This is supported in one of the quest items in Dragonspine called Scribe's Box, where it describes a godless nation that was recently established at the time, which definitely refers to Khaenri'ahn. The creation of the chasm happened 6,000 years ago, and it was formed when the nail was casted. So Khaenri'ahn was possibly established around that time as well. Since it's possible that either the youth or the Voyager established this godless nation, then we can assume that the reason Khaenri'ahn exists to begin with is to rebel against the Heavenly Principles. King Erman, or the Vinster King, is possibly a descendant of this youth. One thing to be kept in mind is that what is the reason for the Khaenri'ahns to create an orphanage to find descendants to begin with, according to Parent Harry? Perhaps around this time, the Voyager disappeared, so they tried to find another alternative by finding children from outside of Teyvat as a replacement. It's implied that they never found one until 500 years ago they found the Traveler siblings, where one of the twins awakened first. It's important to note that according to Capitano, the reason Khaenri'ahns were punished was not because of the nation itself, but the influence of the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ahn, where the 5 abused the power of the Abyss. That said, it's possible that the 5 sinners and possibly King Erman influenced the siblings to absorb as much abyssal power as possible, but something went wrong midway, resulting in the events we see now. In the end, the reason the Heavenly Principles punished the Khaenri'ahns were 2 things. 1, the twin that absorbed the unlimited abyssal power according to the wing, and 2, the 5 sinners' exploitation of abyssal power. If I can add one more, it's possibly just an unavoidable fate since Khaenri'ahn was established because of that rebellion with the Angel, presumably. Trust me, I know all of these are confusing because it is quite confusing for me as well, but this is still a heavy speculation after all, so please take them with an extra huge grain of salt. Before we continue, because you made it this far, then I assume you really like this video. So if you want to see more contents like this from me, then be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to this channel because that helps this channel a lot to get pushed by the algorithm and that lets me know that I'm doing a good job. With that said, let's continue to the next point. In the trailer, the Traveler shows the device and Paimon said it to be a spaceship that takes whoever she talks to Teyvat. It's possible that this is the Traveler siblings' spaceship because we learned that their home planet was destroyed. It's possible that this item was meant to be used during their time at the beginning of the game when the unknown god interfered with the twins trying to escape, and it's good to note that this place is not Celestia. It's possible that this place is just a gateway. Celestia is the floating island. It's this one. But moving on from that, the siblings say the Loom of Fate is completed and it seems this item that they're holding is the Loom of Fate. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions real quick since this is only the trailer after all, and usually, Hoyo trailers can come up quite misleading per se. Like, let's not forget that New Blood getting stabbed on the last trailer was quite an uproar in the community, only for it to end up as a hoax story mini competition that Khaenri'ahn and Charlotte held to each other. But anyways, judging from the way the trailer goes, it's possible that the Loom of Fate is made to presumably create a new time and space for the Traveler siblings to escape Teyvat. Now, this is quite possible because remember, the Loom of Fate was created to create new ley lines. Natlan is essentially separated from the rest of Teyvat because of their damaged ley lines, hence why the Natlanese cannot exit Natlan due to the limitation it has. It's also possible for the Abyss Order to undo their curse because if you remember, the Loom of Fate became a thing because of what happened to Khaenri'ahn. Even Clothar was able to undo his curse and die as proof of what we saw at the end of Khaenri'ahn's Archon quest. Also, it seems the Loom of Fate, or at least the Twins' power, has the power to manipulate time or memory because not only are we reliving the Cataclysm, but it seems they somehow stop time because Tiller is not moving in a few of the frames. Speaking of time, let's discuss the title itself. You see, the name of this Archon quest is A Space and Time for You. In other translations, however, the literal translations are The Space and Time You Are In. With that said, it's possible that we are mending time and space by using the Loom of Fate, which ultimately, if you ask me, there's a chance that there will be higher beings that will interfere in this Archon quest, that being the ruler of time Istaroth and the ruler of space, the Unknown God. At this point, I am positive that the Unknown God is the ruler of space or Unitham as per the artifact describes it as, because if you look at the promotional image carefully, you see a seemingly floating hair that looks so similar to what you see on the Unknown God's hair. Not only that, we can see in the trailer some of the cubes that look exactly the same from the Unknown God's cubes, so we can at least accept that she should be mentioned in this quest. Now of course, we can all assume that it's not hair and it could be a cloud or something, but the shape is not what you see on a cloud or a mist. What's interesting is that you can see the hair in the promotional image, but they removed it in the trailer. With that said, it's very possible that we'll see or at least get a mention of Istaroth and the Unknown God in this Archon quest. Perhaps they deleted it to avoid misconception or for the hype purposes or something, but for us lore enthusiasts, nothing will escape our eyes. Now let's move on from the Archon quest and let's talk about Skirk's possible story quest. This part will be a lot shorter because everything about Skirk is very surface level, but if you want to learn everything about her, you can watch my previous video talking about Skirk. I do the thumbnail by the way. So yeah, go watch it, okay? Anyways, even though story quests usually focuses on the character itself, I doubt that'll be the case here. Of course, we will definitely focus on Skirk herself, but since this quest will involve Surtology, it'll be unavoidable that this quest will be low relevant, just like how it usually goes with Archon story quests. Well, I mean, except for Rina, I guess. Well, she is not the Archon to begin with, she is just the human version of Fuzzler. Anyway, so, what can we expect? First of all, of course, Surtology's lore, and his connection with the all-devouring Narwhal and the Five Sinners, and secondly, Skirk's origin. It is a common theory that Skirk is not from Teyvat, and if she is probably a Khaenri'ahn. The best hint that we can use right now is that she was saved by Surtology during the Cataclysm and since then took her under his wing according to Skirk's strip marketing. Since the Cataclysm involves abyssal monsters that leak out to Khaenri'ahn, it's possible that Skirk also leaked out from that horrifying events, and it's possible that Skirk is either an abyssal monster herself or is a human trapped in the abyss for too long. Although, if I have to go a step further, it's possible that she herself is a narwhal in a sense, because her attack animations have a whale tail and even her attacks are fluid as if she is swimming. Even her own attack animations are reminiscent of the narwhal, so it's possible that not only she is from the abyss, she herself is some kind of same race as the narwhal. Also, I want to point this out really quickly, but it doesn't seem that Skirk will make an appearance in the Archon quest because the trailer didn't show any signs of Skirk in Natlan. Not only that, we'll first meet her in Liyue and it's possible we'll be meeting her in Krai and the Chasm from how the events in the game are being shown. As for what and why she appears, it's possible to find the Voyager, but it could also be something else that we yet to know of. Overall, there really isn't much to talk about since I kinda made a dedicated video about Skirk already, so you can watch that after this video. Extra, we can tell me alright, so I was editing this video and then she got an extra teaser from Hoyolab and a new trailer. I was editing this and I was like, Hoyo, slow down. But on the bright side, well, new video material for me. Anyway, I will make a dedicated video about it later, but first of all, it is implied that Skirk lost her limbs, more specifically her hands and her legs. The teaser somehow hinted at it to be the result of a training with Surtology, or it's possible that she was saved when she was already amputated according to her drip marketing. Either way, she no longer has hands and legs, and what we see now is her forming her limbs from abyssal power. I swear to God, if any of you send another amputated memes of Skirk, I'm gonna ban you from the channel. Secondly, her trailer came out and it's confirmed that she is indeed an alien. We see her fall from the fake sky and into Teyvat. Since she trained Tartaglia, who is an ordinary human, then it's possible that this happened a few hundreds of years ago when Farina was still playing as an Archon, and it's possible that this scene is not the first time she fall, because again, the finale of the Deep Galleries referred to her as a girl, and Skirk's drip marketing implies she was saved during the Cataclysm when she was a young girl. Either way, Surtology saved Skirk, and it is implied that he's also the one that opened the border for her to presumably take refuge. It might be possible that Surtology takes Skirk in and wants to train her as a descender, because again, not everyone outside of Teyvat is classified as a descender, and this was already explained to us by Renee. This NPC, I swear to God, always appears in my videos for some reason. Again, I'll make a dedicated video about her later, so be sure to stay tuned on that. Finally, we need to talk about the Not Krai trailer. Of course, I already made a dedicated video about that, but since it's unscripted and a lot of mess, I'll clarify some of my points there. We can talk more about Not Krai once we get more info about them and whenever they update this event, I guess. Where's the final installment, mihoyo? So anyway, we already know this, but the one who spoke is none other than Nicole. It's mentioned in the Japanese, Korean, and Chinese trailers description, so we can set that one out. It's possible that she is a silly or perhaps in the middle of the spectrum, and it's possible that the silly here is in fact her. But there's a possibility that it isn't, because the silly flies away after that. The origin of this theory is from Wolfie's words, where he mentions an allegory of a boar that turned into fierce animals or rabbits, but one of them turned into a mute person, which is what Nicole asks, a mute person. It's possible that she is either in a state of devolving or she is stuck in the middle, but one thing for sure is that she is definitely one of the angels that Alice somehow recruited. Ma'am, you're a scary human being. Well, I mean, no, she's not really human, but anyways. As for the other things she mentions, the first 5 factions are extremely intertwined with each other due to their deep history and clashes. Basically, their story is told in the Long Night's Oath artifact set, where the Lightkeepers and the Wild Hunts had an all-out war during the Cataclysm and after the Cataclysm. The first leader of the Lightkeepers asked for help from the Frostmourne Scions to aid them in the battle, and as for the Snowland Phase, they were a race under the rulership of the first Archon Belitsar, who died during the Cataclysm and was soon replaced by the Tsaritsa after his death. The Snowland Phase were hinted in the finale of the Deep Galleries, and it is said that the first angel ordered the artisans of the Hyperborea to create this phase. With that said, it's very possible that the Tsaritsa and Belitsar are presumably either they're also phase, or maybe they're artisans, or they're also angels. That in mind, it's possible that the frost of old that Nicole mentioned refers to Belitsar. Anyway, during the second invasion, the Fatui were present as backup, but they never helped the Lightkeepers and watched them die under the hands of the Wild Hunts. Eventually, one of the Fatui soldiers couldn't stand watching them die and helped the Lightkeepers as much as he could. His actions were deemed as a sin, but soon forgiven as he became the new leader for the next generation of the Lightkeepers. Not long after that, another battle ensued in Lempo Isle, but everyone died and a new war is hinted to break out very soon. moon. It's possible that the war that was being hinted here will be revealed in the Archon quest, and we might see the Lightkeepers and the Wild Hunts to go on an all-out war with each other, and it's possible that the war will be something that is related to the moon. It is very possible that the Futui will take part in this battle as well, or the most likely answer I can give you is that they'll probably be the catalyst, watch from the other side, or take it as an advantage for them to take the moon for themselves. As for the Knights of Avonius and the Hexen Circle, I think it's very straightforward. The Hexen Circle is there to, well, I mean, like the event says, looking for entertainment apparently. There really isn't much to say, but it's possible that they were present to record everything that is happening in Krai and guide the traveler in their journey. The description of the video supports this as well. If you want to know more about a certain land, you have to ask the people who live there. Yet, when faced with too many choices and no way to decide, perhaps you need a witch's keen eye to give you guidance. As for the knights, it's not a secret that the flow of time in Genshin Impact is the same as the real world, since we occasionally get birthday letters from the casts, and Lantern Rite canonically happen once a year. That said, the knights have been on expedition canonically for 5.5 years at this point, and when they are nearing their end, it's possible that their expedition has something to do with the power of the moon or something related to Istaroth and Barbados. It's implied that Farka does know Fenty is the Animo Archon, so it's possible that his expedition has something to do with him as well. Other than Farka, we can expect other knights as well, such as Frederica and Nymph, who were mentioned as the other captains of their respective companies to be playable as well. On the topic of the knights, there is actually a famous, or to say an infamous knight called the Bloodstained Knight, who used to be the White Knight from 500 years ago in the Knights of Avonius. Basically, he was quite obsessed with justice and began to have an obsession with slaughtering monsters, believing it is as an act of justice. His sword, armor, and figure turned black from bloodstains, making the people he saved understandably fled, mistaking him as a monster. Knowing he no longer has a place in human society, he went to Khaenri'ahn to fight more monsters, but soon learned that these monsters were cursed Khaenri'ahns and believed this as an ultimate injustice. After witnessing that, he pledged himself to the Abyss. It's unknown whether he pledged to the Order or to the Abyss, but it's possible that we might see the Bloodstained Knight in Krai. Finally, before we end this video, it's possible that the Song of Welkin Moon update won't be just in Krai, since the developers mentioned that they'll be filling in the loose threads of Genshin's lore. Then we might visit other places other than Krai, such as Domin Port, the Black Cliff Forge, the Purple Sea, Mount Isis, and many more. With that said, I'll be making more videos talking about what we know about the Knights of Avonius in the future, because I think more people need to know about this organization, especially they'll be playing a huge role in the Archon quest. I'll make a video about the Futui as well, and also some of the places that might be potentially explorable in the future. Let me know what you want to see first, and with that said, what's your thoughts on the next patch? Let me know in the comments. Jana!